It's a 78 Mustang. It's got the King Cobra package, which is offered only in 78. It was an add-on package. All the King Cobras all had V8s. There was no 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder King Cobras that I know of. These also came in T-tops, and there was on the fastback only for the King Cobra package. The option package was around $1,100 extra over the standard V8 Mustang.
What was the original price of this then?
I think with the extra $1,100 package, it was somewhere around the close to $5,000 range, give or take.
Okay. What size engine is in here then?
It's a 302,
Okay.
or they call it a 5.0 now.
Could you get a regular just Mustang with this engine in there?
Yes,
Or
you had to.
You could.
Yeah, you had to order. You could order the 2-door hardtop or the fastback. You had to order it with the V8 or a 6-cylinder or a 4-cylinder, and you could choose between the automatic C4 or the 4-speed. It was like a German design 4-speed top loader. The top loaders are not very strong if you're doing any kind of like 500 horsepower buildups. Let's see what else. This car, I'm the third owner. The car was bought at a military Ford dealer in California, and the guy was in the military. Now, California, apparently due to emissions, you could not order a 4-speed in California. Okay, so I started putting 2 plus 2 together. Well, this car's a 4-speed. What's going on here? Due to the military dealership, the guy was in the military. He was in Germany, I guess, when he was trying to order it, or maybe he was back for a while. They called the car a DSO code of 90, I think it was like 95, I believe.
It's 93.
A DSO code is a designation code, and that designation was called export. So this car was designated through that military dealership to be exported to Germany because that's where he was stationed right at that time.
So he ordered in Germany.
Well, I don't know if he actually ordered it in Germany or if he maybe was back on leave and maybe ordered it. It was a late order, like maybe around April, May, June, somewhere in there.
And then it was shipped to California.
Well, it came to California.
And then to be shipped to Germany.
But he never actually did that because he probably came back, his service was done. So he was actually from Deadwood, South Dakota. So I'm assuming he probably drove it back to Deadwood, South Dakota, which is interesting.
Okay.
So that's kind of how they got around ordering the 4-speed in California. That we'll pretend that we're going to ship it over to overseas, then we'll get you that 4-speed.
Was that his intention?
I don't think so. I think it was ordered to get the 4-speed. That's what I'm thinking. Because logically, if you wanted the 4-speed, and California law says you can't have a 4-speed, well, I'm in the military. Let's just do the paperwork and pretend we're going to ship it over, even though we never really probably did. So they probably never even shipped it to Germany.
Have you ever found production numbers? How many of these were made?
The King Cobra option was about around 4,318.
Okay.
That includes the T-tops as well, which are less, of course. I'm not sure what the T-top version is. Maybe 1,100 units.
It was about 1,500. And I actually got I've never showed you. I got an actual confirmation from Ford dealership. 4,971 King Cobras.
I always go give or take because they never always keep accurate records.
How many with the 4-speed?
Less than half were 4-speed, about 2,200, give or take. Right around, just over like 2,226, I believe.
Not that many.
No. Yeah, I think back then, people were going to the automatics a lot more. People were getting away from driving stick shift as much.
Yeah, and the 70s too with the gas crisis.
Yep.
They did it 1 and 8.
Yeah. Yep. So the first thing this owners did when they got the car was they put a Holly Street Dominator 4-barrel intake on it.
It was actually. Did I ever tell you I was actually able to get a hold of the original owner?
Why didn't the factory do that? Just put a 4-barrel carburetor in there?
Well, back then, all they really wanted for horsepower wasn't the big thing back then.
No, it wasn't. I guess it was more towards gas mileage.
Yeah. And so they all had I think they were all 2-barrels. Yep. And those are the sport mirrors. That was probably the part of the rally package, sport package type of deal.
Yeah, those mirrors look nice.
This does have dual exhaust on it, which was put on by the previous owners. 8-inch rear end, 3.0 gears. Here's the actual inspection sticker from Oklahoma, when the car lived in Oklahoma.
It's 40 years old, but it's suspect.
I guess that's what happens when you try to keep it out of the sun, I guess.
No, that looks pretty good shape.
The King Cobras was special. This was a black trim. It was black, and it had the King Cobras had orange inlays in the rubber.
Oh, that's nice.
Now this was painted over from whoever painted the car.
I see that little indent in there.
Now, not all cars had that either. That was
Regular Mustangs had white trim on here. The King Cobras had orange trim in it. But that would say it was painted over.
That would look nice.
Yeah, I think the orange stripes in there would really make it stick out.
That's a nice little touch.
I'm not going to bother trying to strip the paint off to find out. They do have Mustangs do have lace rims, but the Cobra IIs would have one groove. The King Cobras had the double groove.
Oh.
So everything is different. Yeah. So, let's see what else.
Do you know about how many of these are still around today? Are those numbers out there?
I know there's
there
not.
There can't be that many.
I've seen quite a few of them go to the junkyard.
Okay.
You know, I've seen a few King Cobras that were in pretty bad shape. You know, some that were parted out. I think there's still a good handful of them out there. I would think there's at least a few thousand of them. I'm sure.
I wonder if there's anybody that's taken a 6 and put an 8 in there and.
Well, the King Cobra
tribute.
Well, the King Cobra package, it was kind of an add-on package. Some of the parts for that, like there's the air dam and there's some air coolers for the rotors and stuff. That's all special for that King Cobra package. That is not on any other Mustangs.
Is anybody making those parts today that you could?
There is a car company right now called Classic Auto Reproductions. They are currently trying to do a lot for the Mustang II part-wise. They've redone like the rear spoilers they just came out with them actually 2 weeks ago on the side wheel spats.
Yeah, they're trying to make some fiberglass reproductions.
Yep, and I know currently they're working on the front air dam. Currently, they're trying to reproduce those.
Yeah, some of those front air dams, if you find a good original one, they can be $800 or more.
Oh wow!
Because they're so hard to find.
There must be people out there wanting those parts.
Oh sure, yeah.
What usually happens because they're made like a polyurethane, they end up bending or cracking or whatever.
It's rubberized rubber
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
They go to.
But yeah, parts are getting hard to find, and like anything else. The car. So this military guy, he was from Deadwood, South Dakota. I think he sold it eventually to a guy in Oklahoma. And I don't know how long he had it. He had it for a while, but then eventually he wanted a truck. I believe I bought it back in about 90. I'm gonna say around 92. I saw an ad in one of those stupid, Auto Trader things, and the price was good, and I got a hold of him, and I put some money down on it. And he said, well, he was in Oklahoma. It's like, so I sent him some pictures of I got another two-door hardtop Mustang I've had since I was 15 years old. So he had some relatives that lived in Racine, and he was going to take a trip up here anyway. So he drove the car up,
Oh, that worked out great.
probably with his dad or something. And so I drove to Racine to pick up the car and pay him the rest of the money for it.
So in '92, that would have been 14-year-old car. 14-year-old car. If this is 78, you got it in '92. 14 years old.
Yeah, somewhere I'll give or take a few years, but that goes.
Not a classic yet at 14, but this is still a cool car.
Yeah, I mean, you just say it was something. I've already got a two-door coupe that I had since '83.
Okay, so you knew these cars.
I knew the cars. Yes, it was my first car I got. I got a red car. It's at home. It was my daily driver as a teenager, which had a 4-cylinder. I bought it from a guy over in Minnesota. He had come up from North Carolina, so the car was fairly rust-free, but it had a bad motor with 92,000 miles on it, with 2.3-liter 4-cylinder was shot.
Oh, okay.
And so we picked the car for like $450. Remember, this is 1983 or so for a '78 car. As a 15-year-old kid with a paper route, to buy this car. And so me and my dad, we did a basic rebuild of the 4-cylinder. We had to find a different head because the cam rockers were falling off. We got a different head for it. Did a basic re-ring job, and that was pretty much it. And I drove it as a teenager, and of course, as teenagers, they drive the heck out of them.
How was it driving with that 4-cylinder in there? It's probably going to gas, but was there any power to that?
If you rev the heck out of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I could still do some clutch pops with it and still smoke the tire a little bit.
How was it driving that 4-cylinder compared to the 8? Big difference.
The V8's got more torque, of course.
Lightweight car.
Yeah, I think the 4-cylinder actually kind of handled better because you had a better weight distribution because it was lighter weight in front, so you could handle the car a lot better.
That makes a lot of sense.
Now having a bigger, heavy V8 in the front, it just doesn't quite have quite the same handling characteristics. Of course, as a kid, I drove my little red 4-cylinder. I drove that, for 20 years. I probably it's got about 165,000 on it now.
That's a long time, 20 years.
Yeah, that motor, that 4-cylinder started puking out, getting weak and tired. It was getting tired.
Okay.
And that was at about 164,000 when I finally discontinued the 4-cylinder.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah, I still got 60, 70,000 miles out of that 4-cylinder as a teenager, beating the heck out of it.
That's great.
And I got a V8 in that one now. I had to track down all the V8 parts, which is a pain. These little cars are kind of a pain.
Can you just put a V8 in there and it's going to be all okay?
You can.
There's probably different motor mounts.
Yes, there's a different frame mount on the driver's side. So you have to track down the V8 frame mount,
Okay.
and of course the motor mounts. You got to track those. Those are getting hard to find. Somebody is starting to rebuild those,
Oh, that's nice.
but those are specific V8 motor mounts for those cars only. So this stuff is getting hard to find.
That's not fair because I didn't see that.
I actually bought the new motor mounts for my V8 swap at the Rosemergies downtown back in about say around 93, 95, somewhere in that area.
Okay, they probably still had a supply.
They were able to get them. They were like $75 a piece. But of course you can't do that now. You're not going to be able to find them.
No.
And if you have to track down all the specific V8 parts, I went with the C4 tranny. I found it in a junkyard down in Indiana. So I got the V8, the C4 tranny, the floor shift, the torque converter. It was special because that's the special size bell housing and torque converter for those cars. The kickdown rod, the drive shaft. So I had it took years to gather the right V8 parts over time, and I finally got it in many years ago.
Oh, that's still a fun project though.
Yeah, they're a pain to work on because I said I got headers. I had gotten some headers for it, and
Really?
it's such a tight fit.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room in it.
It's a tight fit, and you gotta if you're gonna do something, let's say with a starter, well, you gotta unbolt the header to move the header so you can get the start. It's just
wow.
they're a pain to work on. You gotta be very detailed and patient. Yeah, they're a pain to work on. They did have a dual hump crossover in the earlier years. The later years they had a single hump for the exhaust. But if you go back to a 74 to 75, maybe 76, you could actually get a dual hump crossover. Same part, same length, everything bolts right up.
You have to know what you're looking for though.
Yeah, you know what you're looking for, yep. Other specific parts, the dampener is a D5Z V8 part number specific for the Mustang II. The bell housing is special for the Mustang II for V8.
Oil
Yeah,
pan.
oil pan is special. It's because it's shallow in the back end of it for the.
Sump.
It's for the cross member and the rack and pinion steering and stuff too. So yeah, there's a lot of things to kind of know. Well, I'm just going to throw a V8 in there. Well, it may not work that way
I
for
didn't
you.
think you could just do that.
If you just don't know anything about them, if you have a big truck, you can throw almost any motor in those things.
I wouldn't know how to do all that.
But a small car with specific parts that were made to fit,
And for that 1 year,
you
or
got to
2
know
years
which
earlier.
parts you need.
Yeah, you do.
Back in the day before I did my V8 swap, of course I had a 4-cylinder, and people would say, well, you need to get a V8 wiring harness. Why? You think you have to get a whole V8 wiring. It's like, no, I just extended the wires for like the alternator because the alternators were on different sides. So I just tapped in. I just extended the alternator wires to run over to the other side. And the coil, the 4-cylinder coil was backed by the clutch cable. And so that coil wire was extended to reach to the front to where the coil is now on a V8. Just little things like that. And all the headlights are all the same, so there's no differences in there. So, but yeah, it's a lot of detail. So that's about all I know.
Well, it sounds like you love the car.
Yeah, I say I've had that red one since I was 15 years old back in like 82, 83, somewhere in there.